We may think that our head is calling all the shots, but what if our heart was actually quietly running the show? I am so excited about today's topic. It is core and key to living fully alive, and it's time that we shine the spotlight on this. If you've ever felt like no matter what you try, you find yourself back in that same loop of stress and frustration and living crisis to crisis, you may have got the book, took the class, even bought the t-shirt, but you're still frustrated with the results that you're seeing. Well, this video is for you and for me. So what if living that fulfilling, happy, peaceful life wasn't about getting more information into our heads, but actually more about the condition of our heart? Today, we're going to look at some fascinating science that shows how our heart actually functions, and then why it matters so much in the life that we live day to day. Then I'll walk us through a 60-second heart reset that you can start today. By the end of this video, you're going to have the tools that you need to begin living a more fully alive life. So let's get started.
Hi there, I'm Denise. I started this fully alive journey after winning a pretty tough battle with cancer. I came away with a whole new perspective and appreciation for life. Now, as I'm leaning into retirement, I'm discovering and sharing practical ways to live a fully alive life for many years to come.
Most of us assume that our brains are running the show, helping us make decisions, deciding how we react, and even interpreting the world around us. And honestly, that sounds logical, doesn't it? But here's where things get really interesting. There's over 30 years of research that shows the exact opposite. Our hearts do far more than just pump blood. We have over 40,000 nerve cells in our heart. And there's some research that show that our heart actually stores memories, and that our heart communicates with our brain a lot more than our brain communicates with our heart. So what that means is our heart isn't just sitting in the background, but it's actually quietly leading the conversation, shaping how we think and feel and respond far more than we may have ever realized. And this idea isn't new. Scripture has over 800 references to the heart, not the head, not the mind. Things like, guard your heart with all diligence, or as a man thinks in his heart, or let not your heart be troubled. Write these things on the tablet of your heart. These are all talking about our heart, not our brain, not our head. And now science is just starting to explain the why behind all of this. And the why is so helpful. I saw the power of this why recently at the dentist. I had some stitches in my gum, and the dentist told me not to exercise for 2 weeks. And it just didn't quite make sense. I'm a pretty active person, so I didn't understand, why that was important. But when he explained the why, that exercise could spike my blood pressure and interfere with the clotting and healing, well, light bulbs went off. Now that made sense. The instructions didn't change, but the why sure made a huge difference. So let's take a minute to unpack the why the heart matters so much, and why it has such a strong influence on how we live. So research pioneered by the Heart Math Institute shows that our heart operates in 2 primary states, and they call that coherent and incoherent. I know, big words. I like peace and turmoil. So a coherent heart, or a heart at peace, has this smooth rhythm. And it happens when we feel safe, at rest, grounded, or grateful. So in that coherent state, it's like our heart sends an email to our brain and says, hey there, everything down here is looking good. And so then our brain responds. Thinking and decision making improve, emotions settle instead of spike, and our hormones balance more easily. And this calm, peaceful state has ripple effects. It shows up in our relationship, our jobs, and just how we experience everyday life around us. On the other hand, an incoherent heart is jagged and erratic and is usually triggered by stress, old hurts, unresolved anger, or beliefs like, I'm just never going to be good enough, or something bad is about to happen. So in that incoherent state of turmoil, your heart sends an email to your brain, and that email is quite different. It's danger, something's going on, be alert. And so our mind is going to respond as it's designed to do, and it shifts into this fight or flight mode. Your thinking gets foggy or you blank out. If you've ever been in a stressful meeting and having to present something, you may have experienced that. You feel drained physically, even on good days, and the body stays tense. Your shoulders are up and your jaws are clenched. This turmoil has ripple effects. It shows up in our relationships, at work, and how we experience the world around us. So our heart is either operating from a state of peace or a state of turmoil, and it is shaping the kind of life that we live every day. So here's a great example of heart overhead. So back to this dentist visit. This was just a few weeks ago, so fresh in my mind. So I had to have some minor oral surgery. And as I'm sitting in the dentist chair, I'm thinking, everything's cool. I've done my due diligence. I've researched what this all means, and felt like, I'm good. Let's move forward. But we actually had to wait 10 minutes for my body to stop shaking. I was shaking from head to toe. My head said everything was fine, but my heart was running the show and my body listened. So when your heart is in this incoherent state, this state of turmoil, you can know the right things in your head, the right things to say or do, but operating on that information is a whole nother thing. It's like your head is saying, stay calm, and your heart is screaming, danger, danger. And this isn't a failure or a weakness in you. It's simple biology and physiology. The heart signals are stronger and more consistent than what our head is telling us. And now that we know this, now that we have this information, we can use it to our advantage. So I'm going to walk us through a simple 60-second heart reset that restores this coherence or peace, moving us from that place of stress and turmoil and incoherence to the place that we really want to operate from. And this is based off of a lot of teachings from Dr. Jim Richards, and even his heart physics talks a lot about this heart reset and living out of our heart. And I'm going to just pop up a nice peaceful scene on the screen and walk us through that one. So, you ready? Catch it early. Notice tension, fear, or old beliefs rising up. Pause and pray. Lord, my heart is troubled. Help me be still and know that you are here. Take a few slow, natural breaths. Let your body relax. Focus on ease and surrendering tension to God. Shift your attention to your heart. Imagine resting there in safety, quieting the mind. Invite Jesus into this moment. Lord, show me your peace and your truth. Feel for peace, warmth, or gentle impressions. Meditate briefly on core identity truths like Christ lives in me. I am loved by God. You are my peace. Let it sink in emotionally, not just mentally. Now, choose a small, aligned response. In this calmer heart state, ask quietly, Lord, what would living from your truth in my heart look like right now? That could be to respond with grace instead of reacting, or step away briefly to pray, or affirm a promise out loud. Act intentionally instead of reacting. I'm choosing this response because Christ is in me. I am safe. I am loved. Now let it register. Write it on your heart. Pause 10 to 15 seconds. Stay in your heart. Breathe naturally. Feel any shift or peace. And whisper this prayer. This is real in you, Lord. This peace and identity are mine now. Thank Him for meeting you here, reinforcing that heart communion brings peace. And you can build daily on this. The scripture talks about communing with the Lord in the mornings and the evenings. And it's so interesting that science, coincidentally, also says that these times in the morning and the evenings give you the biggest impact in affecting deep change in your heart. So each morning, take 3 to 5 minutes to do a little more extended heart communion with the Lord. Find a scripture that speaks to you. Maybe it's, Lord, you hold me in the palm of your hand, or nothing can separate me from your love. And then in the evening, look back into the day and find a moment of peace and thank God for that. And then you can do this 60-second reset whenever you feel like that anxiousness and that turmoil is starting. And the more you do this, the more it really becomes a baseline from that place of coherence and peace. Your life, the one that you wake up to, can fundamentally change when your heart believes something so fully that it leads from that place of coherence and peace. And then your mind and body will naturally follow. Now, instead of feeling like life is a constant battle, it feels more like this calm, steady, peaceful person is who I really am. If this spoke to you, I'd encourage you to like and subscribe, and consider sharing this video with someone you may know who needs a little more peace in their life right now. Well, God bless, and I'll see you next time.